Hi, well, thanks for having me, guys. My name is Pete James. I'm the Global Commercial Director at RevLifter. Been there for about a year. Before that, I was at Groupon for a couple of years, and before that, AWIN on and off for 7 years and a couple of stints. And today I want to talk around, actually, I'm going to check the time because as a self-confessed waffler, let's have a timer so that Dave doesn't have to wave at me.
There's a big one up on the wall there.
Oh, an old school clock, great. Right. Good, it's 10:15. So I'm going to talk around a little bit today around 3 of the key things you can do to drive greater revenue for your business. But what I'm going to show you, you might look at it and think, oh, overlays, that's been done. It's not what we do, it's how we do it. It's when you have an argument with the other half and what you've said isn't awful, but it's the way you said it was bad. So what we're going to do is just have a quick look at a few of the ways to deploy offers in a more intelligent way and make sure they're personalized. And what I would say is personalized offers aren't just, hey, Pete, here's 10% off. Oh, it's got my name on it. It's personalized for me. It doesn't mean that you know it's personalized for you. It's that you listen to signals and you see what your users are telling you, what your clients' users are telling you, and you react to that. So a little bit about who RevLifter are. We were born in 2017 in March, so we just turned 6, or as I calculated in my new favorite way of measuring time, 44.7 Liz trusses. We are a managed service, but we've also just launched into beta a self-service intelligent offers platform. Touch wood, assuming that's wood. As long as there aren't too many bugs, we hope to roll that out in September to the market, which opens up much more availability to more customers or more competitive fees. In a nutshell, we use AI and expertise to optimize results. And we through networks, we have a plug and play implementation. And we are either paid on results as a commission or paid on fixed fee as well. Fixed fee often works out a little bit cheaper, but as we all know, sometimes commission's easier to sign off. So the main things we can talk about today are the 3 strategies: reducing abandonment, driving profitable growth, and managing inventory. We reduce abandonment by delivering the right offer to stop visitors from leaving without buying. So the far overused phrase, right offer to the right person at the right time, but make sure that we actually do that. Driving profitable growth. So using offers to increase conversions, AOV, and spend per customer, but crucially without denting profits. I'll go into that in a little bit. And managing inventory. So nudging customers towards further products. That can either be to stretch the basket, or if on your website we have access to your data layer. So if within your data layer you have stock levels, then we can actually nudge someone towards something that has high and nudge them away from something that has low stock. So to set the scene, sales promotion has been around for over 150 years, but in that time, they've not really changed a huge amount. But times have changed. What we buy, how we buy, when we buy, and crucially why we buy have all changed. You don't now just buy broadband because you move house. You buy broadband, if you're smart about it, every year or every 2 years because you want to save money. And obviously, with the cost of living, with the pandemic, that hugely changed the way in which people shop. You know, my parents are in their 70s. They would have never shopped online before. Now they love getting their shopping delivered to them from Sainsbury's. So there's just a little example there. But for the most part, retailers still use broad promotions for short-term fixes, and they measure on basic KPIs. I think as a channel, we're a little bit guilty of being too basic with those KPIs. And it's not necessarily through a lack of care. It's often to do with the fact that you might be targeted internally just on AOV, conversion rate, volume, and users and acquisition channel, when actually we can look on repeat customers and so on and so forth. I was actually reading this quote earlier, which was interesting, where it says, come back and tell us if cutting your budget was a good idea. And I think at the minute, we are seeing exactly those sorts of challenges where we've got the same offers for everyone, regardless of who you are. We measure simply on AOV, conversion rate, revenue. We don't talk enough about profit of those sales. Everyone wants more for less, and that's both brands and consumers. Consumers don't want to pay for delivery anymore. They want to be able to have free returns. And clients, we certainly see coming to us and saying, we've got budget challenges. You know, we need to cut our marketing budget by X, Y, Z. So we've done a lot of work internally on reducing our data costs so that where we can pass on some of those cost savings to our clients who are having those issues. So we've got budget constraints, you've got increasing costs as well. And obviously with inflation, some of that's passed on to the end user, which leads to decreased consumer spending. And there's also, obviously, depending on which type of retailer you are, you've got buy now, pay later versus high returns. We had a client who actually turned off Klarna, and they saw revenues go down by about 20%, but profits go up by about 25%. So it's really interesting in this world where, and it's fashion brands really, and no offense if any of you in here are a fashion brand, but we've perpetuated the idea that, hey, I want free delivery and I want free returns and I want to offer, I want to buy, 6 items and I want 2 sizes of each, and I'm guaranteed to return at least half my basket. That's awful for brands, but we're in a world now where people expect it. And you see the likes of ASOS and Boohoo now obviously charging for Premier membership for delivery. So to set the scene a little more, this is a bit of an older report now, but back in 2021, in September 21, the Boston Consulting Group released this, which showed that 5% of total marketing spend goes towards personalized offers, which is really low, right? Like, they're spending a lot more on actual offers, but personalizing it, incredibly low. So you're sending out blanket offers, and you're definitely giving away margin to people that would have shopped anyway. They estimated that redirecting 25% of generic promo spend would yield a 200% increase in return on investment. And we see this play out with a couple of examples. A European grocer who they've not named saw a 2% increase in margin from shifting to personalized offers. And Starbucks increased their year-on-year member spending by 8%. Now, it's worth pointing out that obviously it's much easier to personalize those because Starbucks have an app. And when you log in to buy your shopping, you know exactly what you bought, you know exactly who they are, but we can still take some learnings from that. So our ethos is use intelligence to personalize those offers. So we've all seen overlays like this to the end user. They look fairly basic. That's what it says on the tin. Exit intent, error codes. You've copied something on site to go and price match elsewhere, serve you a pop-up, give you a discount, keep you on. Or at the point of exit, if we think you're going to exit, maybe we'll capture your email in exchange for giving you that voucher. So there's a value exchange there for you. But it's about driving profitable growth without denting the margin, like I said earlier. So you can do a stretch and save, that's fine. You can do a discount of second purchase, multi-buy offers, own brand versus a designer. So you're going to make more margin on that purchase. And one thing we started to look at is non-returnables to high-risk baskets. So like I said, with the propensity to buy multiple products in multiple sizes, what we're doing at the minute is an experiment, or what we're about to, I think it's going live next week with a fashion brand, is if someone has more than one item of a certain product code in their basket, then we will serve them an offer on a non-returnable. So that's makeup, swimwear, and underwear. And that just means you're ring fencing some budget so that you have to accept that a lot of that basket is going to be returned. That's fine. Let's accept that and de-risk it by adding some non-returnables. And managing inventory, like I said, pushing people towards high stock or high margin, and relevant recommendations as well. I'm always amazed by the number of times when I say to a client, can we get margin data by product? And everyone sort of looks around the room at each other like, where would we get that? Is that from Dave and the data team? No, it's probably from John in marketing. And we're just not looking at this stuff enough. And so what we try and do is underpin all of, like I said, the more sort of basic looking, overlays. We've all seen these, but how do we actually make that intelligent? We underpin it with some AI, or probably more accurately, machine learning, by giving someone a propensity score and how likely they are or aren't to buy. And this is where we start looking at not just giving the same offer to anyone, but also crucially, not giving an offer to someone if you don't need to. So if someone's a 5 out of 5 likely to buy, I don't want to touch them. I want to leave them alone. They're going to convert, or at most we'll try and grow their basket. If they're a 1, we're not going to get them to convert. So let's leave them alone to browse. If they're a 2, they might come back and buy. So let's capture their email and we can pass that back to you. If they're a 3 or a 4, they're the ones that are on the fence and we can nudge over the line. We can grow their basket. And we can increase the profit on the items that they're purchasing. So showing the most powerful offers to increase the likelihood of purchase at that point. And this gives us some really valuable data. This is a genuine client report. Obviously, can't say here it is, but what we see on the graph on the left here is an equilibrium point of £128. And what that's telling us is that below 128, you're going to grow your basket beyond your basket level. So on average, if you have for this user, if you have £100, you're going to check out with 119.99. But if you have 200, you're going to check out with 140-ish. And actually, a lot of retailers will deploy a stretch and save far below that equilibrium point because their AOV is lower, and that makes sense. But actually, you've got a huge number of people up on the graph on the right-hand side, where if they've got £200 in their basket, and we've all done it, right? You go shopping, you chuck a load in, and then you go, God, I didn't want to spend £200. I don't need that jumper. I don't need those jeans. And if we can catch people in that moment, then it's not necessarily stretch and save. It's more preserve and make money. And on the right-hand side, we have one where obviously it's a much lower volume of people, but the best conversion rate is with 4 items. So if someone has 3 items in their cart, let's try and get them to add another one. And obviously this changes depending on the industry you work in, the type of retailer you are. But these insights are really powerful. And we've been able to go to quite a few brands with these reports and say, okay, your stretch and say is working fine down here, but what about these guys? And we've launched some really good offers within there. And then when you layer that in with the propensity scoring, it means that if our AI doesn't think you need that offer, we still won't serve it to you. But if it thinks you do, then we'll give it to you. And we also encourage clients to look at our segmentation as well. So with segmentation, I think, again, we talk about consumers and how they're buying and how they're behaving. But just because your general AOV has gone up or your general conversion rate has gone up doesn't mean that everyone within there has behaved in that way. And so we can set up bespoke segmentation, but we also do a lot on these standard segmentations. So everyone who launches with us gets these out of the box. And then what we often do is we'll run those for a month, a couple of months, pick out a few outliers, hypothesize on what we think they're doing, build some custom segments and see what they tell us. And this is really powerful because it means that you can serve, and obviously the more niche you go, the lower the volume of customers in there, of course. So you don't want to go too niche, otherwise really the volume play is not there. But you can tie this in with the intent to buy. So you can say, well, someone who's not made a purchase in the last 5 weeks, I want them to have this offer. But someone who, say, spent £1 on an item in the last 6 months, I want them to have this offer. We saw with one of our clients that if someone came back to site within 4 weeks, their conversion rate was excellent. As soon as they go beyond that, the conversion rate dropped off. Conversion rate in the first 4 weeks was 8-point-something%, and past that it was 1. So if we can recapture someone in that month, they're much more likely to convert. And when you start digging into those micro segments, it can be really powerful. And lastly, experimentation. There's definitely not enough experimenting, I don't think, within the industry, within the channel. We've built some testing tools to do multivariate testing. A really key one that we're doing at the minute is exit intent testing for conversion rate versus AOV. And by that, that's simply having 5 different values. I think it's 5. We've got 5, 7.5, 10, 12.5, and 15%. And you might assume that actually 15 would be better because it's going to drive more revenue, but because that kills your margin much more, actually the best point that we found within that test, and then within those we've done further tests, is 8%, because that drives the value, drives the AOV up enough and the conversion rate up enough, but it doesn't give away so much margin. Once you do 10%, you are sacrificing margin for volume. So that's where we come back to saying that we need to start looking at the actual profit that's being driven and actually prove that the value there is more valuable than the normal on-site sales. Sarah, you mentioned a really good point about incrementality. We've done loads of work trying to test trying to prove incrementality. It's really hard. It's really hard to do because when you're live on site with an offer, you've also got an e-com team that have a chatbot. You've got different UX experiences. Actually, to prove true incrementality is really difficult because there's so much noise there. But if you can focus on driving more profitable growth, then you're going to keep more money in your pocket at the end of the day. And ultimately, we know it works because we get consistent results for leading brands. And the Boohoo one's an interesting one. That's one that we weren't just challenged to improve AOV, to improve conversion rate. They wanted us to make their site, their customers more sticky. And we managed to improve that by 15 seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you extrapolate that across the whole user base, that's a lot more time on site. And that's us. I said I was a waffler, but I've kept to 15 minutes. Any questions?